I would like to call to order the Charter Township of Oxford Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Monday, January the 14th, 2019. If everyone would please stand and pay respects to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, please note the roll. I understand Mr. Bailey is not here this evening.
Noted.
Moving on to item number 4, which is the approval of the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moving on to item 5, which is 5A, which is the approval of our regular meeting minutes from December 10th, 2018. I didn't see anything in there that was out of the ordinary. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 10th, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to item 6, which is public comments for items not on this evening's agenda. Anyone from the public that has any comment related to anything that's not on this evening's agenda? Moving on to 7A, which is our election of officers.
I move to, I nominate James Butler as the chairperson.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? There are no further nominations. It is unanimous approval, James Butler as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for 2019. Nominations for vice chairman.
I nominate Corey Bailey as vice chairperson.
Second. Any other nominations? Seeing there are no further nominations, it was unanimous approval of Corey Bailey for vice chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for 2019. Now taking nominations for secretary.
Not nominating myself.
I will nominate Margie Payne as secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other nominations? Seeing none, will further be no further nominations. Unanimous approval of the zoning of Margie Payne for secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals for 2019. Congratulations to all.
Thanks.
I'm sure Corey's going to be happy about that, but that's okay. Got to be here.
Yeah. That's what happens when you don't show up.
That's right. What happens when you don't show up? Moving on to item 7A, which is ZBA 016.18 1850 Bar Road, parcel 04 36 400 011. The applicant Kevin Hill. Subject property is located in an SF1 suburban farm zoning district. The approval of this application as submitted would require a variance according to ZBA, according to zoning ordinance section 67A, article 3.7, schedule of regulations for the proposed construction of the pool. As you recall, this item was in front of us last month, and the applicant chose to postpone that item. We did hold the public hearing and close the public hearing, but the applicant is here. Mr. Hill, if you come forward and explain what you've done since the last time we've met.
Not a problem. All right. So before you, I apologize. I only printed out 3 of the packets, so one person will have to share. So, excellent. All right, so in the envelope in front of you, when you open it up, the very first picture is a photo legend. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to walk through really all the documentation in the middle section. It's slight updates from what was submitted last week. So just kind of, we're going to walk through basically what I've done since then from a research perspective of where we're at. So basically, first off, we basically want to clarify topography of our property itself, making sure we understood where elevations were at. Secondly, proper locations of septic tanks, power lines, etc. Validation of the pool location, property survey, clarification via the Oakland County Gateway Property Manager of where the property lines were in reference to where they are in actual reality. And then finally, an updated site plan, which is in the back half of that envelope packet that Benatti Pools and we worked over the weekend to take care of to get an updated site plan. So with that, kind of flip through to the second page. So this is kind of a high-level overview of our property. I shot with a drone. You see the proposed location of the pool. You see the property lines outlined there. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And again, if you look to the left on your booklet to the either south or north, you'll see the north compass of where north is actually at. Right? All right, so then we go to the second page. So then we have the topography map of our property. So you can see as we basically start, as you pull into the driveway, we're at 10,000 or 1,083 feet above sea level. And then as you walk through the front of the house, as it slopes down, goes from 1082 to 1080, 79, basically right at the property marker, right by the tree, they're at 1073. The pool itself is at 1072. So right from basically the highest level of the corner of the house from 1079, it drops about 6 feet down to 1072. You'll see that in the corresponding pictures. As we can continue going west, it goes back up a little bit to meet the house again at 1079. But then as you trail back towards the adjoining property, the elevation starts to decrease down to 1068. And as you see the angles of roughly 43 degrees, 45 degrees, 48 degrees, that slopes pretty well down there, goes down to an elevation of 1057. Kind of sweeping around to the bottom of the house, right at 1076 is the corner of the little fenced-in area that we have. In the very lower left corner of my screen, the power line overhead post is actually at 1061. Moving along the power lines, we're at 1072, 1073, going up to 1076 at the fence line again, and then back at the top of the property at the back rear patio, we're at 1082, with again 35-degree incline, a 28-degree incline heading down by the dog run, down to the kind of the brush line, and then a 15-degree angle sloping downwards towards the power lines from the house going down. And that is from Oakland County Department. It matches exactly within a foot in certain areas. Sometimes it matches exactly to what Oakland County has as well. So go to the next picture. So now we're going to walk through our property. I took a bunch of pictures so everybody has a really good idea of what's going on at the elevation. So this, the third page, or the fourth page, is a view right from our property line facing directly north towards the house. You see that the pool is completely staked out. There you get an idea of where it's at. You also start to see the elevations that we're dealing with going from our main single level through the walkout itself. Any questions? Okay. The next picture we have is basically a view to the northwest. As you see the rise again, I added some numbers in there as well. So 1072 comes back up to 1079. As it slopes down to that pine tree, we're at 1073. And as it continues tailing off to 1068 and then down the hill. Next, looking to the view to the northeast, sort of toward the front of our property, towards the road. Again, the same thing is visible from 1072 down at the pool line level, 1079 at the deck, and as you come towards the adjoining property, goes down to 1074, and as I said, right at the property line itself, it's at 1073. The next slide is a view from the neighboring property at their 50-foot side setback view. And I have two pictures showing one, the more left picture or the upper picture in your pamphlet is seeing with the two trees in there. And you could very faintly make out the outline of that pool with the yellow tape. And again, the pool will be even with that base elevation of that 1072 where the pool is at. Next picture inward, we're looking at, if I basically turn 10 degrees and I look down the hill, you see that our property definitely dives down into that lower corner as well to kind of make kind of a valley going around by the power lines. Does everybody understand the topography of what we're dealing with? All right. The next picture is utility mapping of the property. Again, there was some clarification last time I highlighted some different things and I was corrected. So I went back and fixed it. I worked with 2 different companies. I called up Harson's Hoe in Ortonville and then Jay's Septic Systems in Lapeer to come out and just quickly take a look at what's going on my property. So again, the septic tanks themselves, they are right inside the patio, and then the lines and the drainage out to the field is right on that incline past that fenced area. I also called Miss Dig to do an E-plan as well to figure out where the power lines are buried at, running from that power over that post into the buried all the way up to our house itself. And that's roughly where the lines are at from this picture. They come across and then directly line up with the house with my meter. As you can see as well, I've also highlighted basically we're looking at 73 feet from the power line to the corner of the house. As we get to the far corner of the house to the kids' bedrooms, we're looking at 75 feet to that point. And actually at that line itself, the low-level power lines are actually only 11.5 feet tall. So on a ladder, I could basically touch them. And then the far left behind the mother-in-law suite in the garage, there is another septic tank and a small field over there. And the next picture, again, I'm re-showing the septic field. As we move more north, I highlight the same 75 feet distance between the corner of the house and the power lines. And then I actually added in from the one corner of the mother-in-law suite to the power lines, we're looking at 68 feet. And from the power lines basically up to the house again at that cross diagonal is 68 feet. And again, the reason I did that is it was asked from the board of saying, can the pool fit up inside that fenced in area? And by the looks of 75 feet, yes, it can, but it cannot. A standard pool size of our nature with Benenati saying a pool dimensions roughly is 70 by 50. And according to the Michigan the Michigan residential code for a pool, code E4203.6, pool in areas extending not less than 10 feet horizontally from any inside of the pool walls, but then as well from an overhead conductor clearance perspective, clearances in any direction to the water line level, edge of water surface, base of diving platform, or permanently anchored raft section, as long as its supply drop cables within 0 to 750 volts has to be 22.5 feet, or 0 to 15 kilovolts has to be 25 feet. So if a pool clearance is 50 feet horizontally plus the 25 in clearance, that's the 75 automatically. Plus we have to be 10 feet away from the house as well for footings to make sure the house and the water pool doesn't collapse on back. So that won't fit inside the pool area. So we looked at that as well. And then finally, the clarification on the accuracy of the property lines. It was brought up last time that with how the satellite looks at the earth, everything's curved, is the real distance between the house and the property line actually correct according to the property gateway website that everybody's taking measurements from. So based on that, what I did is I went to the website, took a snapshot, and we can see for 1 inch it's 50 feet. Based on the survey that the Babcocks did on the neighboring property, I went from that marker post all the way to my deck where the roof is at, and I actually measure 85 feet. And when you do it with a ruler from that line as well to the house itself, we're looking at 78 and an eighth a foot. So actually I have more room than necessary. So that's a clarification on that, because there was talk before about it could be off by plus or minus 20 feet, things like that. So we wanted to make sure that this was clarified as well. All right. Next one. So this is a picture from the deck facing down towards the pool. Again, I've highlighted the property line markers that have been put in via the survey. The pool is outlined. Again, working with Benenati over the weekend, this pool shape is slightly changed and rotated. And we've actually looked at, instead of asking for a side setback variance of 19 feet, 8 inches, we're now looking only back for a setback variance of 16 feet and 2 inches. So we've rotated enough that we've knocked 3 feet and 3 feet 10 inches off of the initial proposal that we submitted in December. So if you picture this pool, you basically want to counterclockwise rotate it. And on the far, in the maps, in the back of the folder, when you open up all those up, you'll start to see the site plans and all the renderings showing landscaping, safety fencing, all that stuff. So if you open those up, it kind of walks through, the first page is the site plan, showing the updated side setback variance that we're requesting. If you recall, the old one was, I believe, the dimension to the water's edge from the property line was 30 feet and 4 inches, and now it's 33 feet and 10 inches. So again, and you also see going towards the house edge, we're looking at 12 feet and 9 inches, where a standard, setback from a house is 10 feet. So there is some wiggle room that we can bring that pool back a little bit more. The reason why it's at the 12'9" is because from the pictures we saw before, we have those walkout walls, those angle walls that are anchored and have footers underneath. And I could have Todd or Ben and I talk about why it's currently at the 12'9", but there is some play. Basically, it's with the force of the footers with the pool walls and the water net, making sure that it's going to collapse the footers of the house itself. So there is a little bit of wiggle room that we could slide that back, and we might not ask for the full 16.2. We could maybe get to 15, maybe a foot, go back and forth from there.
Can I add something to that, too?
I could get you up on the mic and identify yourself, please.
Sure. It's Todd Weaver. Todd Weaver, I'm with Beninati Pools. Another concern with that, too, is they have a balcony and small children, so we're putting it right up underneath that balcony was a little bit of a concern. So when we were doing the drawings, we were trying to find that happy medium, where everybody, it's like I hate to have any temptation of looking off the edge of that balcony at a big, beautiful pool and have any temptation. So I wanted to make sure that was understood, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So then within the pamphlet of the pools, you see there the renderings. You have an overhead view, you have a view looking out from the pool, and one more view that's in there. West-facing view as you come down from the side from the front of the house into the side itself. That's it. So that last view, the last page, or the second to last page, is the view looking from the adjoining property into my yard with all the landscape and the trees to provide noise reduction.
Anything else?
I could keep going through the rest of the packet deck. I mean, we could talk about, so again, now if you reference that very first picture of the packet, the photo legend, there is 14 more pictures showing all the elevation changes within our property. As you look through picture 1, 2, all the way through, basically I have a notification of what number it is and then where the view of that picture is from. So like 1, looking out from below, looking directly into the pool. 2, looking back up the hill from basically inside the pool and going forward from there. So, I mean, we could go through all of that if necessary. But you really start to see all the elevation changes going through all the back of the property, throughout the back and up the other side as well.
Any questions from board members related to the applicant?
I did on the topography. You're taking Oakland County topography and transposing it onto a better, I guess, a picture from a 500-foot view from your drone on that.
No.
Is that what you did, or?
No, I did not. Actually, I used an app called My Elevation. That's been 4.5 rated stars, over 10,000 reviews on Google Play. And hikers use it to mark elevations, so I just walked around my property. I got GPS locations and elevation changes from sea level. And then when I worked with Beninati, it happened to match almost exactly, at certain points, it matches exactly with what Oakland County has in line. So if you want to compare and review, it's not a problem.
Any other questions for the applicant? Walters, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I know we held the public hearing last time, but the applicant, the adjacent property owner is here. There was some additional information that I think that probably would like to share, so. Mr. Babcock, if you would like to come forward,
Thank you.
pleasure. Good evening.
Good evening.
Did you get a chance to get our email?
packet?
And,
Pull the mic down a little bit.
okay. Did you get a chance to get our packet that we emailed?
We were handed to us just before the meeting.
Oh, okay. Did you get a chance?
This is the one from January the 12th?
Yes, mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you need a chance to review my letter or not?
I can't say I had a significant opportunity to review it.
Okay.
We
If you
wish to
want
go through it.
Yes,
It's fine.
please. Mhm.
Again, if you would like to present to us.
I think my letter's
Okay.
kind of important, if everybody could.
If you want to go through it, I mean, that's fine with us.
Well,
And there are some photos that go with it.
Okay.
okay, let me,
Let them read the letter.
I'm good.
You good?
Yep.
Other board members need time, or?
Okay. I know that I don't want to be insulting by reading your own descriptions, but I will just to refresh you on SF 1, 2, and 3 suburban farms. Your description is the suburban farms districts are intended to have a low population and development density in order to protect areas that have significant topography, scenic beauty, and other unique natural resources that should be preserved and enhanced. It is further the intent of the suburban farms districts to foster a residential environment for individuals and families that is more open and rural and at a lower density than single-family residential districts. And then it says sanitary sewer service is not anticipated. So I think that actually sums up the property pretty well if you see it, and you'll see that we have some photos that we had from several years ago, things that we did to the house and that show a little bit of the,
okay. The one thing regarding the house, it was kind of chaotic when we moved into it. She's a designer, I'm a sculptor, we're willing to do a lot of work, and we did a tremendous amount of work on the house to unify it and to make it we believe, a beautiful place. On the images I have, I start off with images that are looking at the west side. We spent a lot of time reorienting the house. Before we did what we did, what is now the backyard was nothing. As a matter of fact, it had a bunch of trees that were almost like weeds. They were continually falling and breaking and stuff. But anyhow, that said, we had a master bedroom. We put patio door in. In the hallway that came through from one side to the other, we put patio doors in there. And then there's also a door that goes into the dog pen as well as a gate. So the orientation for celebrating the property is predominantly out the back
To
side.
the west side,
Yes.
to the west.
And then the other one is basically a series of photographs that I had taken looking out to the back. If you're looking directly west, in regards to the site maps that were also given to you, you can see I had two sites. One that was up by the house in the backyard, and the one that was further down, but actually a little bit further north, where it is higher elevation, and it also is a little bit flatter terrain. Now, the one thing about the terrain, all that terrain is sand dune. There is no difficult digging place anywhere. If you want to alter the terrain, it's no problem at all. And the previous owner who lived there did a considerable amount of altering the terrain. We did not. So anyhow, just basically, if you look at the first two that are from, one from the bedroom and then the one from the main hallway patio door, you can look out and see that area that is marked on the site map that is beyond the power lines. It was mentioned when my wife did a call, we did not receive any packet of information on this.
Yeah, we didn't receive any of this. We
Yeah.
were told that there was no change.
Yeah.
In asking for the variance. So I guess we came into this a little bit blind, but we prepared our package.
Yeah.
And as I said, I didn't want the topography misrepresented. Mostly the site where the house is, because most of the house is on a slab. It's very flat, it's sandy, and the house, I think what my husband was alluding to, that the house was added onto 3 times from the original Hunter's cabin. Mr. Kaufman, who owned it before us, was vice president of Oakland University, and he just started putting addition after addition on. That's why the house didn't have any symmetry. It just rambled. So I hope we restored that. But when we put the French doors heading out west, showing out to the west from the master bedroom and the foyer, it does give nice sight lines. That's really the nicest part of the property out the west. And so our feeling is that, I'm not sure, it made it sound like 70 by 50 foot pool would be like almost like an Olympic sized pool. I hope that's not what's going in. Is that what's going in? No. Okay, so I'm not sure, when he rattled off all of those numbers, we don't have any chance to check any of that. We believe that there are multiple sites, for the pool, if it's a reasonable sized pool. And so I just really do not wish that this variance be granted, because again, it seems to crowd up against the property line. We're trying to look out for any potential buyers of the property, because we understand the 2.5 acres that we own now. We've been taking care of it for all of these years, and we understand where the building would probably go. And we're also asking not only to protect our property rights, but to adhere to your own codes, your own zoning ordinances. Again, this is a luxury. This isn't a necessity. So we're just asking that you respect that if possible.
So again, regarding the 2.5 acres, yes, we're up here making an argument, but yes, we hope to realize what the fair market value we're asking. But it's actually your neighbors, your fellow people who are going to be living there in the future, what kind of house they're going to build, where are they going to put the house, what kind of ambiance are they going to enjoy from the neighbor who lives just north of them. So those things need to be considered too.
When Mr. Kaufman owned the house, when we first bought it, he had big loudspeakers out the front, and it was sort of a party house. He had children, and he talked about that he loved having big parties and things going on. We, of course, removed the loudspeakers, and then as we tried to reorient everything, it was because he owned all the 15 acres. Well, we did own the front 5, and we did own the 10, but now we only own that 2.5. But we turned the focus of the house to the lovely rolling part with the nice vistas, not down out the front towards the old tennis court, which also has a basketball backstop that we put up for our daughter. So I guess we just object seriously to this and hope that you'll respect our property rights.
It was mentioned that there was an offer for any one of you to come and walk the site. And I don't know if you did have an opportunity to do that or did not, but my question was, did you also walk the 2.5 acres? Because if you're going to do one, then you have to do both. Understand, again, we're not just protecting ourselves, we're protecting whoever's going to have the property after the fact. This question that's being presented today should be presented to them. And really, we're just here to protect that individual, that new family.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it. So as I read the documents and what's being presented, obviously there's been a modification. I think what's being asked right now is a variance of 16 feet, 2 inches. So the house did get modified, or the pool did get adjusted slightly. With that, I think we'll move on to our findings of fact. Pursuant to Article 17.8C, in reviewing the request for variance, the following standards for determining practical difficulty shall be considered, with no single factor being determinative. Number one, strict compliance with regulations, with restrictions governing area, setback, frontage, height, bulk, and other non-use matters will unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or render ordinance conformance unnecessarily burdensome. Board member comments?
I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that would render the whole piece of property unusable for its intended purpose, or for this purpose.
Walters, comments?
I agree. I mean, it's a 10 acre lot, right? Where they're proposed versus other areas on the lot seem to be quite reasonable when you're looking at Michigan law with respect to power lines and distance from the house. So they are confined. They do show some hardship there, as well as any removal of trees in the immediate backyard. That would be a hardship. But just based on the nature of the property with the topography, I think it does apply.
Any comments?
Well, I just see with all the variations, the elevations on the property, that I don't see a whole lot of sites for a pool. A couple sites, one that the people next door had suggested, and also the one that he had suggested, but basically I see the property as being kind of hard to work with. What I see.
Yeah, and looking at, we did ask the applicant to provide us some more documentation. The map related to the utilities, show where they were.
Right,
Not saying they
septic
can't,
fields
not
and-
saying they can't be moved. I did bring up a point related to the power lines,
Yeah.
and it's free clear line where it has to be.
Yes.
I guess I didn't think of that in relation to the west side.
Yeah.
Okay,
We were even thinking about septic field removal as well, right?
right, there's
Yeah,
been
our
cases
last-
where that has happened, but it looks like with the requirement for the 10 foot from the pool, from the building, and then the 25 feet from the power lines, that area along the west gets kind of narrow.
Yeah.
For the building, for the pool.
Except on the southwest corner of the house. Behind the southwest corner of the house.
I mean,
that
wrapping
area.
around that corner more.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Talk about this a little more.
Okay.
The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. Obviously, it'll do justice to the applicant.
For sure.
Right.
I mean,
Yes,
they even
absolutely.
quoted the National Associated Realtors online magazine could increase the value of a home of 7%. I didn't know that a pool does that, but
You hear pros and cons about those.
And
If you like a pool, it's
also
great. If you
a
don't,
wonderful thing for
Interesting.
the kids. It's a wonderful way to bring the kids up.
Okay.
They have a swimming pool.
Moving on to number 3, the lesser variance and requested will not do substantial release to the applicant and will not be more consistent with justice to other property owners. I mean, he has offered a lesser variance. I mean, I think he's also offered to move that even further if so need be. I mean, I understand, you know, this, I look at this as a pool. I don't look at this as an accessory building.
Right.
I mean, it's something that's in the ground. If it was a building, I'd have certainly a different opinion.
Yeah, and I think the applicant started at 20 feet variance, went down to 19.8, now he's at 16.2 and offering maybe even 15 if need be, right? So,
Well, if this goes through, I would want to make sure that it was with the stipulation that the screening, the landscaping screening was put in place.
And that could be a condition.
Yeah.
We have that ability as this board, if that is our
Yeah.
pleasure, to do that.
and it was presented as part of the proposal.
Yeah, it's presented, but
Yeah.
I'd want to see it as.
We probably want to.
I think we want to do that, I agree.
All right, moving on. The need for the variance is to the unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not generally applicable in the area or to other properties in the same zoning district. I think that applies. I think there are unique circumstances that you would find on this property, topography, power lines.
I think it applies as well.
And number 5, the problem and the resulting need for the variance has not been self-created by the applicant or the applicant's predecessors. Board member comments?
Well, the power lines and septic fields were there prior to them moving in, right?
Yes.
So it really hasn't been self-created. That being said,
Yeah, he didn't build the house, he didn't come to us asking for this.
Right.
So it does apply.
we had talked about the pool being rotated last meeting, and it looks like they're still going on the sight line of being the length of the house versus being perpendicular to the house. Has there been any thought to rotate it, and if so, what would the variance be on that?
As far as,
He'd have to move some dirt. They'd have to move some dirt. To get-
Additional cost, right?
Yeah. But it's very doable. I mean, there's not a lot of dirt there that they'd have to move. They could turn it.
And I think, I'm trying to piggyback off what you're saying. If they did that, then they'd have some room around that corner in the southwest corner.
Did they say that by turning it or anything, that it would interfere with the foundation or anything on the pool?
we can ask that, we can ask that question of the applicant if we want.
Yeah.
Still, can you-
Okay, so we're talking about turning the pool a little more sideways like we talked about the last time.
Yep.
And what did you say about turning it as far as interfering with the foundation on the house or too close to the house?
That was to come back towards the house, that on the,
Come back towards
yeah,
the
we're
house.
at, the dimension is currently at 12 feet 9 inches, and a setback from a house is 10 feet. So 2.5 feet there, but from, as Todd said, with little kids looking on the balcony,
Right.
10 foot looking from the deck down, if, we could
But-
continue to rotate it a little bit, and if we rotate it fully 90 degrees, we'd have to come back up with a updated site plan. I know it does decrease, we just took that shape and turned it, but with the elevation changes on the street side, on the east side, we'd have to figure out how that dirt and how the elevated deck would look and things like that. But I know we could push it back and, like I said, get to around 15 feet
But
roughly.
if you turned it sideways, would you be turning it more towards the roadside or more towards the back side of the house?
We'd be turning it basically perpendicular to the house, so it'd be facing, instead of going basically on a north-south projection, it would be, facing the length of the pool would be going east-west or
Right.
northeast, southwest. And when we just turned it and looked at the dimensions of everything, it was, I think, 10 feet past the setback or something like that, based on the current.
So if you turned it, you'd still need a variance.
Correct.
Of maybe 10 feet.
Correct. That's roughly what I was, yep. And a couple of things I would, if I'm up here, if I could point out, or no, it's too late.
I don't know.
No, you can,
Okay, I just wanted, I completely forgot in the last couple of pages, we asked some realtors of, does a pool affect a neighboring property? And I have 7 realtors answer that, no, it really doesn't. Realtor, as a realtor brings potential buyers to the property, again, this is all, as Badcock's has stated, this is all future, that the potential buyer would look at where build sites are at, and their property is unique just as mine, with their power lines running through their property as well. So by setting, or by giving a variance or not giving a variance, actually setting precedents moving forward if they request a variance against a side setback as well, or a rear setback as well as they build their house. So that is also an advantage to a potential future buyer, because precedence is set with this ruling going forward.
so I guess the question is, would you be willing to rotate that and get to a variance of 10 feet? I know it's hard for you to say, but we're trying, I think we understand that there's circumstances here that are peculiar to this property, and we're trying to minimize that variance as much as we possibly can. I don't want to have you keep coming back, but, in our minds, we want to see how small can this thing get. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think
Well,
last time you were, I don't know if this still holds true, but you were considering moving it, and that variance was 10 feet, because you were 40 feet off the property line at that point when you rotated it, based on your last presentation. I don't know if that's
Right.
something you're still considering or not, if that's an option.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That would be if we took the shape as it was and just completely rotated it, we were looking at, a variance. It was based on the current dimensions of that pool, design and drawing, it was at over 9 feet something. So yeah, it would be a 10-foot variance. So it would be 40 feet setback instead of the 50-foot setback. But, excuse me, with rotating the pool, working with them this weekend, there is a little bit of adjustment with the curves, and now cutting into that hill, there'd be additional costs for retaining walls now, because I have to mark it farther back up or more west and cut more dirt in there and create more rock and more foundation footers going forward from there. So,
John Benedetti, 2 quick comments. We're trying to keep or save that large pine tree in the corner there too. This is why we didn't, it would be the southwest corner by the back of the house, right under, if you're looking at the elevation from the county, it's up right under 1076. And I also wanted to say that if we could possibly go behind the house, the neighbors would be looking at quite an intrusive 6 to 7 foot tall retaining wall coming from the house around, because there's a good 6-7 feet of grade there. If we went off at the finished floor elevation of the, existing finished floor elevation of the main floor. So that's another reason why we think it would be, like, Mr. Butler, you brought up that the pool is in ground, but not intrusive, it's not a structure sticking up. Well, if we went on the upper elevation, it certainly would look like a massive structure sticking up, because it'd be retained with either one, and only probably 2 tiers or a lower tier. There's got to be 9 foot, 8 foot minimally of elevation there to retain. We could probably lose 2 foot, but you'd be looking at a 6 foot manufactured wall, an engineered wall, which is kind of ugly, or 2 tiers of 3 feet, 3.5 feet. Plus the fence would have to be on the top up there too, because it would have to serve as railing. So you'd have 4 foot of fence on top, 6 more foot of wall, you got minimally 10 foot of structure sticking up there if we went on the other suggested location. Right out of the gate when we looked at this is why we wanted to go down there. We weren't aware of the setback issues. It's just, just to tackle the grades.
understand, thank you. Thoughts, board members? And I think I'm speaking out loud, I think we understand there are some issues here related to topography.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we're all of the same mindset to see how small can this variance get? I mean, it sounds like rotating, and look at the topography, I do see some of the issues he's kind of talking about. Could you slide the pool a little bit to the east to avoid the tree?
Yep.
Maybe, not the designer here, but maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. So if you keep it as is and you can deal with 10 feet, take the 12.9 down to 10 feet, you know, you get a couple of feet there, that 16.2 goes down to 14. So you're talking about 4 feet.
Yeah, it's close to 15-foot variance there then, right?
I would agree, I wouldn't want to see it go much closer to the house about the deck and
I
not just for young children, but teenagers do really stupid things, I'm just saying.
The temptation of that, yeah, I agree. I was
So-
young once too.
I don't think it should be, you know, right under the deck, so I agree with that portion of it.
Yeah.
But the sideways, the turning it sideways, I think would, you know, unfortunately create a bigger cost, but be easier to swallow for a 10-foot variance.
Yeah, the only other thing, maybe with what he has, do you split the difference, take a foot here, and then maybe add some landscaping, more landscaping, to soften that.
It's not from the wall?
Yeah.
Anyway?
Well, just soften the effect upon the adjacent property owner. If we get a foot or two, let's say that
As a-
12.9.
As a landscape.
11.9.
Yeah.
And then you put a little more robust landscaping along there to soften that. I mean, there's costs obviously associated with that, I understand with the applicants. That shouldn't be, that's not in our wheelhouse. We understand it. But what is, again, it gets down to what is reasonable. What do we think is reasonable. You know, I commend the applicant for making some strides here at turning stuff. You know, we had talked about turning it 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Would have kind of liked to see that, but that's not what's presented to us. So, if anybody's interested in making a motion, I'll certainly entertain one.
I'll make a motion. I moved in regarding ZBA 01618, property address 1850 Bar Road, parcel 0436400011, based on the finding of facts, to approve the applicant and owner Kevin Hill for the request of 16 feet 2 inches variance from the south side property line to place a pool based on the applicant's dimensional drawings included in this board packet with the landscaping barrier, based on the finding of facts and our discussion as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second for a discussion, okay? All right, so it's, what's on the table is 16 feet 2 as is, turned, not turned, rotated slightly, based upon what the last landscaping as presented. Any discussion on that?
I think we've said, you know, we've also said how we feel.
Any desire of this board to increase that landscaping? Change to 16 to 15, take a foot out of it. And again, I understand the balcony issue, I do. Just seeing if we can't get a foot or two. But at this point, is a foot or two really gonna make a big difference? Do you really, do you add more landscaping? Because right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces of landscaping. One I'm assuming is deciduous and the other one's non-deciduous. Look at. All right. Guess since there's no other discussion.
No amendment, no nothing?
No amendments, no nothing? Okay. No. Madam Secretary, roll call?
Walters,
Yes.
Birch,
Yes.
Payne is a no, Butler,
Yes.
motion carries.
Motion carries.
Could you put a better motion for it? What is
Pardon?
Can you clarify the motion?
16.2 is what they got the variance.
16.2 inches.
That's the landscaping?
Yes.
Includes,
Yes.
includes the.
It includes the landscaping.
And the fencing?
Fencing is required pursuant to the pool. Moving on to item 8, board member comments. Any comments, board members?
The township board is meeting at 6:30 now, right?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to stay with 7 o'clock all year,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna stay with 7.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys work, it's probably easier for you to do.
A little bit, some days.
Those of us that are
And the
retired.
applicants,
Some days.
right? And the applicant, true.
Deanna, do we have a understanding when we might get a vacancy filled from the planning commission?
Yeah, their next meeting,
Okay,
which will probably be in February.
okay. Do we have anything coming for us?
No,
ZBA?
no, actually, as of Wednesday, I have nothing in the office, which I won't be here, so there won't be anything in the office. I haven't heard of anything, so there
Okay.
nobody is like rushing to get to me. You shouldn't have anything for February.
Okay.
Wednesday's sort of the deadline.
All right.
This Wednesday.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, motion for adjournment?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving to support, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.